It's impressive you landed a job here with just a high school diploma and no college. Starting as a temp is quite amusing. A former classmate, who used to belittle me and with whom I had severed ties, made a condescending remark when we met again at my new workplace. I had my reasons for not going to college, but she seemed to be under the misconception that I was a temp worker. Then she said with a malicious grin, "I'll be taking good care of you from today on." So, I decided to respond with a smile. "No, that's my line." With that, my classmate was as if she had fallen into hell. My name is Henry. Not to brag, but my family is quite well off. My father runs a company, and my mother is a homemaker. Being an only child, my parents spared no expense on my education, and I've been attending private schools since elementary. I was fairly good at academics and sports, which often made me the leader of my class. I attended a school that covered from elementary through to college, so I naturally progressed to its middle school section. Even in middle school, I often ended up being a class leader and was elected as a class representative. Thanks to my parents' emphasis on education, I managed to keep my grades high and enjoyed school life with friends I've had since elementary. Then one day, a new student transferred to my class. I'm Avery. I lived in Japan until last month, so speaking English is still a bit difficult for me, but please bear with me. Avery, a returnee from Japan and of British-Japanese heritage, was strikingly beautiful by anyone's standards. The class instantly buzzed with excitement. "Miss Avery, your seat will be next to Henry, our class representative. If you have any trouble, feel free to ask him," said our teacher, Mr. Maverick. Realizing that I was about to be saddled with all the caretaking responsibilities, I said, "Mr. Maverick, dumping everything on someone isn't really fair. Students might find it easier to rely on a classmate their age than an older teacher. Okay, let's start the morning meeting. Avery, please take your seat." After Mr. Maverick's words, Avery sat down next to me. I greeted her with "Nice to meet you," and she responded with a shame, which made me laugh. A returnee, half Japanese, stunningly beautiful, and she had chosen to transfer to this private middle school, which was quite unusual. She quickly became the center of attention in our class and a popular figure in the entire grade. Her innocent and charming personality was definitely one of the reasons for her popularity. Moreover, her English, slightly awkward due to recent return from Japan, was seen as cute, adding to her appeal. And as fate would have it, our houses were next to each other. I had noticed the moving truck in front of the long vacant house next door a while back, and my mom had recently mentioned new neighbors moved in next door, and we even got a gift of moving in noodles from them. However, I never imagined they would be a classmate's family. I found out Avery lived next door purely by chance, as we both left our houses for school at the same time one morning. Since we were classmates, avoiding her seemed odd, so I decided to strike up a conversation. "Good morning." "Autumn, good morning. Why are you here?" "I live in the house next door." "Next door? Jer, looks like it. Want to walk to school together?" "Sure." It seems Avery, even while in Japan, often spoke English at home with her mother, but Japanese is still more comfortable for her. "Henry, how do you say this in English?" "That's a flower, or flower in English." "Flower, got it. Your native pronunciation is really something else. English is hard. The only way to get used to it is to keep talking. Let's chat a lot." "Okay." I laughed with Avery, who energetically agreed. Walking to school together, we immediately got teased. "Are you two dating already?" But when I explained, we just happen to live next door, and I'm kind of her caretaker, everyone in class seemed to understand. And so, we naturally started walking to and from school together. During these walks, I helped Avery with her English, and she taught me Japanese. Her Japanese lessons were clear and easy to understand, and she said the same about my English lessons. Thanks to this, my Japanese skills improved, and I could understand Japanese anime. Avery's English also became smoother. Before we knew it, we were in our third year of middle school, and it was time to think about our future paths. Our school offered education up to college, so we could continue on without doing anything. But I wanted to experience the outside world, and decided to attend a different high school. After obtaining my parents' approval and receiving encouraging words from teachers, I took and passed the entrance exam for the county's top high school. Surprisingly, Avery was at the same exam venue, and when I asked her, she said she was trying out for external exams too. With a smile, she also passed, and we both ended up attending the same high school in the spring. In high school, Avery's beauty, partly due to her being half Japanese, became even more pronounced. She was popular and excelled academically, always the center of attention. Right after starting, she was automatically entered into the school's Miss Contest at the Fall Cultural Festival. Seeing Avery become such a celebrity, almost like an idol on TV, made me feel she was a distant figure now. Back in middle school, we were desk mates and neighbors, so close. As for me, since I was the only one from the same middle school as Avery, I was busy dodging boys who asked for her contact details, to deliver letters, or to help set them up with her. Avery and I initially attended school together, but over time, Avery became class president, started hanging out with other friends, and our schedules drifted apart, leading to a gradual separation. Well, I made some friends too, so maybe it was just a natural expansion of our separate social circles. I felt a bit lonely, but I knew things couldn't stay like they were in middle school forever, so maybe it was for the best. Though we grew apart, Avery and I would still greet each other and occasionally chat when we met. We had settled into a relationship that was nothing more than just classmates. After entering high school, I started working part-time and became close with classmates from other schools. Interacting with people outside of school was exciting and fun, and I spent most of my time at work. In my second year, I chose the liberal arts track and ended up in the same class as Avery, but we hardly ever talked. Our conversations were limited to simple exchanges as classmates, and I spent more time hanging out and talking with a few guys in my class. After school, I would head straight to my part-time job. Avery was busy with club activities, so our interactions were quite rare. By my senior year, I got really into something with friends from other schools and started focusing more on that. I'd rather be doing that than going to school, but I have to attend. Honestly, at that point, I was pretty much neglecting school. I attended just enough to get by, but outside of classes, I was mostly sleeping. I even fell asleep during some classes and got scolded by teachers each time. Then, one day, Avery, who was the class president, suddenly asked me, "Henry, what are you doing during this crucial time of senior year?" It had been a really long time since Avery and I had a conversation like this. Just busy with various things. What kinds of things? It's none of your business, Avery. It's just something I enjoy doing. At that, Avery looked visibly upset. I thought to myself how she still hasn't changed a bit in showing her emotions so quickly. It might not concern me, but you know it can affect your academic records and recommendations, right? Yeah, I'll be more careful. Thanks, Avery. Even though I said that, I continued to be busy with my own stuff and spent most of my time at school sleeping. I managed to get through midterms and finals, and then came summer vacation. While everyone else was attending summer classes and preparing for college entrance exams, I didn't attend any and was busy working. I rarely went home and didn't attend school much during that time. Avery and other classmates messaged me asking if I wasn't taking summer classes, to which I only replied, "Too busy to attend." Then, when summer vacation ended in September, Avery approached me first thing in the classroom saying, "Henry, why didn't you attend any summer classes?" What? You were the only one in our class who didn't attend the summer classes, Henry. Everyone's working hard. What were you doing? I didn't really understand why Avery was so upset just because I didn't attend the classes, but I decided to tell her honestly what I had decided over the summer. I've decided not to go to college. After high school, I want to pursue something I'm really interested in. Avery's eyes widened at my words. I can't believe it. Coming to school just to sleep, and now not even taking college entrance exams. I never thought you'd be that kind of person. So irresponsible. Being irresponsible. Going to college isn't everything in life, you know. And you can always go to college later if you want. Right now, I just want to do what I feel like doing. That's not how life works. It's not that easy. For some reason, Avery looked like she was about to cry as she said this. I didn't really understand why she was getting so emotional, but I was pretty sure life wasn't easy. I know that. That's why I'm working hard to prepare, so I don't fail, I replied, but Avery just glared at me sharply and went back to her seat. After that, she never spoke to me again. Later, I heard from Avery's mom that she got into a famous national university. All my classmates had entered college, and despite the teacher's suggestions, I kept refusing to go. Eventually, I graduated from high school and left my home. 10 years passed, and I was now 28 years old. I had stuck to what I wanted to do and had successfully achieved my goals, working every day. Today, I was at my new workplace. I was excited to work somewhere different than where I had been before. I wonder what kind of people work here. I hope they're nice. As I was thinking this, someone called out, "Henry." When I turned around, there was my colleague, Nolan. "Nolan, good to see you, man. You look well." "Of course, so do you." Nolan, whom I hadn't seen in a while, gave me a friendly slap on the shoulder, and I returned the gesture. "What brings you here, busy as you are? I thought I'd show you around the company." "You, Nolan?" "Yeah, I know this place better than anyone. Let's go, newbie." "I'm not exactly a newbie." Laughing, I followed Nolan for a tour around the company. Though the company had a cafeteria, I wanted to explore the area around the company during my lunch break, and I found a cafe nearby. It seemed they had a lunch menu. Perfect, I'll have lunch here. As I entered the cafe and ordered from the lunch menu, waiting while looking at my phone, someone called my name again. "Henry, is that you?" I looked up to see a woman with familiar features, somewhat reminiscent of my childhood friend, Avery. It had been nearly 10 years since I last saw Avery, so I had no idea what she was like now. How do you know my name?" "It's me, Avery. We were together in high school, remember?" "Wait, really, Avery?" I stood up in surprise. "Yeah, the real Avery. I wasn't sure it was really you, Henry. How did you recognize me?" "I just thought you looked kind of familiar." Avery laughed. It felt like it had been forever since I'd seen Avery's smile. It wasn't just that we hadn't met in a long time, but I also felt like I hadn't seen her smiling like this. "But why are you here?" "Oh, I just transferred to a company nearby today." "Which company?" Do you know Moon World?" "That's where I work." "Moon World? I work there too." "What?" I had no idea Avery was an employee in my company. This was totally unexpected. Come to think of it, I heard a new guy was starting today. Could that be you, Henry? "Could be. Our company actively recruits mid-career hires, so it's not unusual for new employees to join." "So, you're a temp worker then?" I heard the new guy was a temp worker. Avery looked at me with a bit of a condescending gaze. "It's impressive you landed a job here with just a high school diploma and no college. Starting as a temp is quite amusing." "Wait, her words are pretty sharp, aren't they? You said you had something you wanted to do instead of going to college, and now you end up as a temp. That's laughable." Avery laughed more. "Starting today, I, as a regular employee and your senior, will take good care of you." "No, that's my line, actually," I said to Avery with a smile. "What?" "Sorry to break it to you, but I'm your boss. I'm not a temp worker. I'm the vice president of Moon World." Avery's mouth dropped open in shock, and after a moment, she exclaimed, "Is this some kind of joke?" "It's no joke." I pulled out my business card and handed it to the still stunned Avery. It read, "Moon World Corporation, Vice President, Henry." "This has to be a fake. That can't be true. Is this card some kind of edit?" Avery flipped the card over, examining it restlessly. "No, there's no reason for me to fake a business card like this." She still seemed unable to believe it. "No, it's true," I said, when suddenly, "Hey, Henry," was heard. Today seems to be a day of being called out, I thought, as Nolan appeared. "President." "Oh, Avery's here too. You having lunch?" "Yes, I am." "Hey Henry, you eating here? Mind if I join?" Nolan asked, and of course, I happily agreed. "Sure, let's eat together." Nolan sat down next to me and called the waiter to order the same lunch. "Excuse me, is this man really our company's vice president?" Avery asked Nolan, who casually replied, "Yeah, that's right." Henry was working Japan for us, but he's just transferred back to the headquarters. Did you two know each other? You're about the same age, right? Henry and I were classmates in middle and high school. Wow, really? That's such a coincidence. Nolan laughed. Soon, our ordered lunches arrived, and we enjoyed our meal while chatting. Avery, watching us talk comfortably, seemed astonished, realizing it was all true. I met Nolan when I started working at a fast food place during high school. We hit it off since we were the same age. One day, I want to do something big, rather than just lead an ordinary life. Nolan once said, and I wholeheartedly agreed. I felt a regular life of going to college, then working for some company, seemed uninteresting. In hindsight, it might have been just a youthful desire to be different from others. But Nolan and I decided to make it happen. We brainstormed what we could do together and decided to start our own company. We thought of importing and selling cute and unique items from Japan, as Nolan had a surprising fondness for such things. Thanks to my daily conversations with Avery on the way to and from school, I was good at Japanese. So, I traveled the world sourcing products, while Nolan, who was attending a business high school, handled the administrative side. Neglecting high school, we received advice from my father, who ran his own business, and steadily prepared for our enterprise. Just before graduating, we were ready and launched our company, co-managed by Nolan and me. I gathered products from abroad, and Nolan sold them online and in stores. Of course, it wasn't easy at first. We faced many challenges and dangers on my trips abroad. I got tricked into buying faulty products and had my wallet and phone stolen countless times. But we overcame these obstacles together, and our company gradually expanded, increasing our trades and growing larger. We were able to hire more employees and got to where we are today. Now, we have companies both in Japan and the US. Until recently, I was at our Japan branch. But Nolan, the president, said, "Why don't you come back to the States?" As a young and successful president, Nolan often gave interviews for magazines and always talked about me, his co-founder, but explaining it was getting tedious since I was abroad. "Let's start doing interviews together, it's easier," Nolan suggested. I had been thinking of returning to Japan too, so I left the Japan branch to someone else and came back. Now accustomed to working in US, I was relaxing at a cafe near the office when Avery appeared beside me, looking like she wanted to say something. "Hey Avery, what's up?" I wanted to apologize to you, Henry." Apologize for what?" "Sit down first," I said, encouraging Avery to take a seat next to me, and she promptly did. I ordered a drink for her. "I'm really sorry for the other day. I misunderstood and thought you were a temp worker and made comments about you being a high school graduate and a temp. It was really wrong of me." Don't worry about it. I should have clarified, my bad." The next day, a new temp worker named Suzuki joined, and Avery mistook him for me. "I didn't know anything about you and called you irresponsible." Right, I remember you said that. I'm saying this now, but I've always liked you, Henry." What? I was so surprised by Avery's sudden confession that I raised my voice louder than I had in recent times. "I was happy when you were kind to me after I transferred schools, and I really enjoyed the time we spent walking to and from school together. That's why I followed you to the same high school. But in high school, we started drifting apart. And even when we ended up in the same class in our second year, I thought we could become close again. But you were always sleeping in school, and we hardly talked. It felt like you had drifted far away from me, and I felt somewhat betrayed. It was just my selfish feelings. I never knew Avery felt the same way back then. I hoped we could spend time together if we attended the same university. When you mentioned not going to college, I reacted poorly, saying life isn't sweet and calling you irresponsible. I regret it now." Avery's speech turned formal towards the end, which made me laugh. "Even though you were always sleeping in school, you were always top of the class. That really seemed unfair to me. I made an effort to stay awake in high school classes to avoid falling grades. Despite appearances, I studied on my own. My parents allowed me to do whatever as long as I graduated, so I maintained the minimum grades. I remembered how difficult it was to juggle preparing for the business, studying, and working part-time. Still, those were fulfilling days. Teachers don't really say much as long as your grades are good. Well, they did keep asking me to go to college. I guess a top student not going to college is a headache for a school focused on university admissions. Actually, a teacher even asked me to persuade you to go to college. They asked you too. The teachers were really desperate, huh? After that, Avery and I caught up on the times we missed talking during high school. I also felt back then that as you became more popular in school, it was like you were moving away from me. When I said that, Avery suddenly muttered, "I wonder if we wouldn't have drifted apart if we had been honest about our feelings back then." Maybe. I wondered how Avery would have reacted if I had told her back then that I was planning to start a business. Would she have supported me? Or told me to stop? After a moment of silence between us, I said, "Hey, Avery, how about we start over as friends again?" Avery, I was honestly so happy about your confession. We drifted apart in high school, even as friends, but I thought I'd like to start over, be friends again, and enjoy spending time with you. At my words, Avery nodded through tears. "Yeah, let's start over." From then on, Avery and I, as coworkers and friends, began to spend time together again. We'd go out to eat, sometimes just the two of us, sometimes with Nolan and other colleagues, or even hang out together. Avery was as innocent and cute as ever, and though we had our disagreements, spending days with her was enjoyable. Gradually, I found myself liking Avery more and wanting to be with her. What clinched it for me was something she said while we were out drinking, and she was a bit tipsy. "The most fun I've ever had in my life was walking to and from middle school with you, Henry." Really. Even when dating others, I always thought the times I spent with you were the most enjoyable. I couldn't ask more than that, but I was genuinely happy to know she thought of me that much. I had heard that Avery didn't have a boyfriend, so during one of our meals together, I decided to confess. Spending time as friends, I realized I like you too, Avery. "Will you go out with me?" I asked, and she immediately nodded her head, saying yes, and so we started dating. About a year has passed, and today marks our first anniversary. I decided to propose to Avery today, planning the ultimate classic proposal scenario. The venue was a restaurant with a beautiful night view. Everything was set perfectly, with the restaurant's cooperation for a surprise proposal. Mid-meal, I excused myself to change into a tuxedo. I thought it might be a bit too much, but it's a proposal after all, so I psyched myself up. Returning to the table, I knelt before Avery and said, "Avery, I will make you the happiest woman on earth. Will you marry me?" With tears in her eyes, she nodded, saying, "Yes, I'd be honored." I prioritized my ambitions and lost something important once, but I got a second chance and grasped happiness. From now on, my priority is the time I spend with Avery. We're still young, and we might make mistakes in prioritizing, but this time, we won't drift apart. We plan to share our thoughts and walk through life together, understanding each other,